Beneath the surface of the long peace, the dark undercurrents of doubt and unrest never ceased to flow. The whispers of Morgoth, like a venomous serpent, crept silently into the frail hearts of men. In the year 369 of the First Age, a council concerning the fate of men was held on the plains of Estelad. Bereg of the House of Beer, the leader who had always advocated for a return to the east, once again stated his distrust of the elves to the assembly. This time standing beside him was seemingly the respected Amlak, a descendant of the House of Marok renowned for his wisdom. This Amlak, with highly inflammatory words, described the slavery of the elves and the false hope of the West, and his speech caused a great stir among the crowd. However, just as the atmosphere of the assembly was about to erupt, the true Amlak rushed into the crowd. He revealed that the speaker, who was his exact likeness, was nothing but an evil phantom sent by Morgoth. The phantom vanished before the terrified eyes of the people, leaving a dead silence. Although the trick was exposed on the spot, the venom it had sown had already sunk deep into their hearts. Bereg and his 1,000 followers could no longer trust anything in this land. They departed resolutely to the south and were lost to the river of history. But Amlak, having witnessed the insidious and malicious methods of the great enemy, felt a great wrath kindled in his heart. He led his people north to enter the service of Maedhros, vowing to fight against the endless darkness with his life. In this time of change, new heroes were quietly being born. In the year 374, Burin, son of Berhir, son of Boron of the House of Beer, was born. His cry seemed to foretell that a legend filled with love, sacrifice and dauntless courage was about to begin. However, Morgoth's patience had run out. He decided to test the loyalty of men with blood. In the year 375, a large orc army suddenly appeared from the east, sweeping over the forest of Thargelion where the Halidin dwelt like a foul torrent. The Halidin, though valiant, were few in number and ill-prepared. They were surrounded by the orcs in a stockade camp and fell into a desperate situation. Their leader, Haldad, was slain in a valiant sortie. His daughter, Holith, a woman with a will as strong as steel, dug her father's grave with her own hands and then took up a spear to continue leading her people in battle. Her brother, Holdar, also fell to the orcs' blades while defending her side. Just as the Halidin were on the verge of being annihilated, Caranther, son of Fëanor, leading his elven army, swept down from the north like a swift wind. The swords of the elves glittered coldly in the sun, and their war cries struck fear into the hearts of the orcs. The orc army was utterly routed and the Halidin were saved. After the battle, Caranther, deeply impressed by the unyielding courage of Holith and her people, offered to provide them with land and protection. But Holith, a proud and independent woman, graciously refused his offer. She would not be dependent on any lord. She would lead her people to find a home that was truly their own. After a brief respite, Holith led her surviving kin on an arduous journey west. They crossed the perilous lands of Eriador and finally reached Estelad in the year 376. In the same year, another pioneer of men, Marok, passed away in peace, and his son Malak succeeded him as chieftain. 4 years later, in 380, Baron, chieftain of the House of Beer, also came to the end of his life, and his son Boron took up the mantle of leadership. The old generation of pioneers was gradually passing away, while a new generation of heroes, such as Burin 374, Bregel 386, Hirwin 389, Hader and Halmir 390, Bregelaz 393, Gilwin 397, and Berhir 400, was rising like spring shoots after rain in the land of Beleriand. Holith and her people did not remain long in Estelad. In the year 390 she led them westward again, finally entering the forest of Brethil between the rivers Teglin and Surun. It was an ancient and deep forest, and though King Thingol claimed lordship over it, he had never truly ruled there. The people of Holith settled in this forest and were thenceforth known as the people of Holith. They became the guardians of the forest, living an isolated and self-sufficient life. In the House of Marok, the mantle of leadership was also passed smoothly. In the year 398, Malak died, and his wise and far-sighted son Maegor became the new chieftain. He would lead his people to face the darkest trials that were yet to come. And during this time of relative peace, a long-brewing family tragedy erupted in the hidden city of Gondolin. In the year 400, after living for decades in the forest of Nan Elmoth, Eredhel grew weary of the dim forest and her husband's twisted possessiveness. She longed to see her city and her kin again. Taking advantage of Hluel's absence, she fled the forest with her now-grown son, Maeglin, and after a perilous journey, they finally returned to Gondolin. When Eredhel once again set foot on the White Streets and King Turgon tightly embraced his long-lost sister, the entire city was immersed in the joy of reunion. Maeglin was utterly awestruck by the grandeur and light of Gondolin. He immediately fell in love with the city, and also with his beautiful cousin Idril, the daughter of Turgon. However, the jealous wrath of Hluel followed close behind. With his unmatched tracking skills, he found the secret way into Gondolin and burst into the king's hall. Before the throne, Hluel furiously demanded that Eredhel and Maeglin return with him. King Turgon sternly refused, declaring that any who entered Gondolin could never again depart. In despair and madness, Hluel drew a short javelin hidden beneath his cloak and cast it at his son Maeglin, for he would rather slay his son himself than leave him there. But Eredhel sprang forth and stood before her son, and the javelin pierced her shoulder. At first, the wound was not thought to be serious, but Hluel's weapon was envenomed. That night, Eredhel died in agony. Her death turned King Turgon's heart to ice. The next day, he was taken to a black precipice in the city called the Character. He was sentenced to be cast from the cliff to his death. Before he died, he looked at his son Maeglin with a venomous glare, cursing him, that he would suffer the same fate in this place and that all his hopes would turn to ash. This curse, like an unseen specter, clung to Maeglin thereafter and planted the seeds of ruin for the seemingly impregnable White City. Just as Gondolin was shrouded in the shadow of this family tragedy, in the lands of the house of Bir, Barahir, son of Bregolas, was born. No one could have foreseen that the destiny of this newborn child would be closely linked with that of his cousin Beren, and that together they would write a magnificent epic of loyalty, sacrifice, and the indomitable spirit of men. And the clouds of doom over Angband in the north had gathered to their fullest. A cataclysmic wave that would change the shape of the world was about to crash violently and without warning upon the shores of Beleriand. The long peace had come to its end,